All right, let me go ahead and kick this meeting off. Welcome to TimeBolt Office Hours, August 25th, 2022. You are live with Doug and Quinston. We are here to answer your questions, check your workflows, and generally make sure that you get the best out of TimeBolt. Quinston, do we want to go ahead and just jump right into our guests today and get into questions?
Sure.
Do we want to do and save the review for the new product introduction or the new?
Yeah, let's not waste any time. Like we could just like jump into questions and then move forward. Yeah.
All right, perfect. I know I did, Dave. We're going to kind of put you on the hot seat first. Thank you so much for joining us. Dave owns Feedback Gaming. He owns a very successful YouTube channel. And let's see, there you are. I thought your face.
Hey, I'm here. I made it.
Yeah, no, your face looks totally. Have we met? Have we ever worked together before, or is it just me seeing you on videos so much?
Okay, 2 years ago, you had me in a voice call, and I was having any tech issues with TimeBolt, and you guys sorted me out.
That's what
This
I
was
thought.
before you did the show. Yeah, it's before you did all this show stuff. Yeah.
Oh wow! Your face and voice just sounded so familiar, and certainly I've seen a lot of your videos. And Dave, can you give a little bit of context about how you found TimeBolt? This was a couple years ago that you found TimeBolt, and the type of content that you make.
Yeah, this was. Oh wow, how long ago was this? This was at least minimum of 2 years, maybe even going on 2.5. You were like, you don't launch the product that long ago. Most of the features weren't even there because it was so early days. Yeah, I used to use a software with After Effects called Bliss. It was like a plugin called Blissful
Awkward
Silence
Pause?
or something. Awkward Pause. That was it. Oh, you know the competitors really well. Well, that product's not around anymore. And it was awful. It was really buggy and everything. And I thought, surely someone has thought of a way of removing silence. It just feels like such a simple thing that I always think to myself, like, if I think of something, I like, surely someone's already thought of this, you know? Like, I'm no genius, you know? Surely it already exists out there. And I just Google it randomly, and that's what I find. Obviously, I keep Googling because I didn't find the software I wanted. And eventually I stumbled on TimeBolt. There's so many softwares that try and remove silence now, but man, some of them are just rubbish. So I kind of experimented with them all, and to be honest with you, the only ones that really stuck was TimeBolt. Really, yeah.
Excellent. Did how long have you been using TimeBolt then? For like a couple years, and are these like long gaming? Are these like long gaming files that you're using TimeBolt on?
Yeah. So I edit by waveform, and I only speak when something relevant is happening in a gaming let's play. When I've only got silence and content that I've got, TimeBolt removes all the fluff out, and I'm just resulted with a let's play. It's probably the easiest method of making edited content on YouTube without having to really dig into like editing software. Of course, I had a bit of fluff on the end of it, a little bit of music, for instance, and I like maybe little fancy zooms and whatnot, just to give it a little bit more kind of watch time. But overall, for the most part, TimeBolt does the first step from 4 hours to 20 minutes, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And so have you found over time, I mean, obviously as our features have increased, have you found over time that are you using TimeBolt to do more things? For example, editing your entire timeline entirely in the software, doing anything with speed ramps, any of our speed up effects that we've come out with that export to XML and do those things. Have you noticed you using any more of those? Have you just kind of stayed on the same?
I think my workflow in the last pretty much 18 months to 2 years hasn't changed. It is practically tweak the silence removal, export to XML, give it to someone else. And the only reason I do it like that, and I've not really took advantage of a lot of the other features, I'm aware of them because I get all your emails, is that I work with editors and they do my other jobs while I'm working on other stuff. So it's like, throw the XML at them, throw the 50 gig MP4 at them, they take out care of the rest, you know what I mean?
Yes, and so when we're talking, so you give that part to editors, and so what stays in and what stays out is entirely up to them. Do you know if they use TimeBolt as well, or are they then just going in and
in the early days, I used to send them the presets for the TimeBolt settings, but sometimes they wouldn't get the settings quite like I'd like. Maybe they'd be a bit cut off on sentences and words, and it was very difficult to kind of communicate with someone how the right TimeBolt settings should be. Yeah, and I think a lot of the time I'd always have to go back to TimeBolt myself, and I was generating the XMLs. No, I'm almost 99% certain none of them don't use it, unless they're YouTubers on the side, which a lot of them are, and they might, because I've given them the word how I structure my workflow, and a lot of the time I've recommended TimeBolt through them anyway.
Excellent.
Maybe. The answer is maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And so when it comes to actual, we've approached you about talking about TimeBolt. One of the difficulties of working with gamers is that, you know, once they find us, they absolutely love us, but they don't really share their competitive advantage online, right? You just don't find many of them making videos as far as affiliates. I think we only have one, and 40% of our customer base are gaming content creators, right? But you're not finding those that are like influencers that are teaching people how to create games and also have their own gaming channel, I guess. So it's kind of hard to find that mix of talent of people that are recommending, product to you, and at the same time delivering a gaming channel. So I know that gets a little difficult. How do you work with companies today when it comes to sponsored content?
99% of them approach me. It's usually an email. They want to insert an insert in my video, which is like a 60-second, 90-second insert where I promote a product of some kind. And once again, another 95% of those products are kind of a one-off for inserting it. And all they really want to know is what analytics are and what their key audience are, who they're going to be speaking to. That's pretty much it, really. It really is the most simple possible transition. There are some more complex deals called CPM ones, which are like cost per mile. I tend to avoid those ones because it kind of comes across a little bit like they're trying to find ways of underpaying you. And also I do get quite a few affiliate ones as well. And it's not that I'm reluctant to promote it because I'm revealing some hidden secret. All right, maybe there was I'll admit, maybe there was a very small part when TimeBolt came out and I first started using it, I did want to keep it on the low. But I think for the most part now, people are aware of a lot of these AI generated edits and stuff. They're becoming a little bit more universal. I don't think it's like a hidden secret anymore. I think the truth is I do promote TimeBolt quite a lot in private calls with people, but generally I just don't usually talk about it. I think a lot of the time when I'm speaking to a general audience, because maybe not all of them are video editors, I guess they don't really understand the concept a lot of the time. I have to kind of really explain it to them. It's like, so what happens is a lot of it's unedited and then I remove all the other bits and then it makes a video. I'm like, okay, I kind of get that. So usually it's not usually because I'm trying to keep some market secret. I'm really open to talking about it. I'm kind of proud of it, actually. The truth is I've used it for so long, it just works for me,
Yes, no, I think it's the cat's definitely been getting out of the bag lately. And from a company perspective, how do affiliates audiences, this is just kind of more of a strategic question, how do your audience differentiate between the things that you use and the things that companies have come to you and asked you to do a placement? Is it like the context that, like, are some of them just ads that you insert into a video and then others are things that you actually talk about your personal experience with a product and video?
I think generally they would always prefer me to talk about my personal experience because if they show me playing a mobile game, of course my audience is going to latch onto that way more than they normally would. I think I'm really reluctant with affiliates because it feels like I'm becoming a salesman for that product. I feel there's a part of me wants to become distant from that product because therefore I don't feel like I'm actually involved in it. Let's be real. We've all promoted a product at some point or had a job where we did sales and we didn't particularly pitch. We didn't really like the product that we were selling. We were 100% committed to it. So there's kind of a very small key, low level distance that I'm put away from the product. Not that I don't support anything that I promote. I really do. However, when it's something that's an affiliate and I'm doing a direct call to action, I'm talking to you and selling that product, I feel like it becomes a little bit more. However, I will say one thing though. I do feel passionate about TimeBolt. And even though I probably haven't got I know because I did get your email about the affiliate, I just kind of felt like, would my audience connect with that? I don't know. I was on the fence with that.
Well, what we'd like to do is go ahead and try out, kind of talk to you about your rate cards and your prices. And Quincy, I think, we're both in agreement. We'd like to go ahead and try out a paid ad. One of the things that's just kind of bewildering to me, okay, is this, like, it's just this context. And if you can just tell me, because I'm not in your position. So there's, like, if you look up how to edit video quickly online on YouTube, right? There's a couple like major affiliates that seem to show up across many different editing spectrums. And when you reach out to them, it's like one company. They have also the same rate. It's like, X amount of $1,000 for us to promote your product. And you look at it and you're like, okay, well, you got 2 million freaking subscribers. Who am I to say, how's that business model work? It's like they don't even have to use TimeBolt, right? Like it's like, hey, here's TimeBolt. We'll give you a free license. We'll teach you how to use it. And then we're going to pay you to promote it. And they've got the biggest subscribers. And I'm trying to understand, if we didn't pay them, and there's people that we don't pay, and they use TimeBolt to significantly decrease their amount of time making videos, don't audiences, like, are there any audiences that get kind of weary of watching? Like, how effective is that content if it's actually paid for? Because if you're telling me I'm going to use the latest and greatest shit that might be able to save me 4 or 5 hours, but unless this company pays me $15,000, which they don't fucking have because, they're just starting out, they're bootstrapped, I'm not going to tell you about how I'm doing all this in 60% less time than I'm teaching, right? Mm-hmm. And until like 2 hours later, or a year later, when they have the money to pay me, and I'll tell you that, reveal my secret of what I've been using for the last year or two. I didn't know, like, getting into sponsored content and paid content, if what people's feelings are about that. If there's any talk about those things.
I couldn't tell you the end result of like how much product is sold at the end result, because a lot of that stuff they keep kind of on the low on their end. They kind of just have an expectation, a lot of the media companies, of how many views you can generate that people can actually see that actual ad insert. And that's all. At the end of the day, they usually let me know, like, oh wow, that video overperformed, that was great. Or that video a little bit underperformed, okay. in the day, all they care about is how many eyes see the video. I think that's all the middle agencies really care that much about. How that equates to actual sales, I actually really don't know, honestly. A lot of the most common insight I do is like mobile games, because at the minute there's a lot of money in that, isn't it? And I just presume it results in a net profit for them. I really don't know.
Yes, yeah, and it's almost like a choice you have. Like you have a mobile game, you could play this mobile game or this mobile game, and versus a software. Now we've got some competitors. You can use this software or that software. It just seemed to me outside the affiliate model. How much trust is there? Are we going to get the same amount of we believe exposure to TimeBolt will lead to sales, but are we going to get the same level of conversions with a paid sponsorship, even if you are talking about it versus an affiliate type deal, right? Because one seems to me to be like, this is so unique and differentiated. You can't just go out and choose a different alternative option. This is something that's changed my workflow. It's not like I got a Sony camera versus a Panasonic, lens, right? Type thing. It's more like this usurped my entire workflow type thing.
It's hard. It really is. Because I think a lot of the time, marketing isn't usually over the short term and just equate to raw sales. A lot of the time it's just brand recognition over long term. So I think they're thinking about both, because a lot of time I've been paid. It's strange because I'm playing a certain game that for the most part is already out there, everyone's aware of it, but the company will approach me randomly and pay me a ridiculous amount of money just to promote their game again, even though I'm already playing the game, I'm already with it, the game. So I guess they're just trying to build hype around a release of something, so therefore has a broader brand recognition overall, potentially to tap into new audiences, I guess. I suppose that's a question you could ask yourself. Are you interested in raw sales and turnover, or are you interested in pushing TimeBolt brand further and further it could go,
Yes, I think almost any marketing that doesn't result in revenue, either short-term or long-term, isn't really marketing, like got to result in revenue. I mean, especially for an early stage startup. That's something, I'll talk with Quinton. That's a really good question that you bring up. But I know that we're interested in placing one of our bets with a known gamer with no gaming channel, which is you. And if we can work kind of on the rates, I'll certainly ping you. I've got you laid out some initial guidelines, and I wanted to ask, if we could supplant some of that, make up some of that upfront cost with possibly sponsoring you personally in the video that you make, or however you make it, with like 3 free licenses, a grand worth of free lifetime licenses to give away on the channel. Because then what that does is that gives, like, you got 3 licenses worth $250 each, right? And then what I've seen work extremely well is that you basically say, hey, pick a number between 1 and 1,000, or pick a number, or leave a comment about why you would want this software, and I will pick the top 3 answers. And so now all of a sudden the YouTube algorithm's picking up on all the different comments, and you can maybe say in the video when you're going to be picking the winner. But we've seen quite a bit of engagement happen that way. I didn't know if that
strategy
was...
I've noticed that sounds good. One strategy I frequently see quite often is when a creator is promoting a product, there's usually with a 5 or 10% discount baked within it. And that's for 2 reasons. One, it's easy to keep a log of who's used that discount code. So you can actually see directly how powerful that ad was that they actually gave. So you can actually see, was that worth it in the long run for direct sales, if that's what you care the most about. And secondly, it actively gives a kind of a call to action, I suppose. You have a time incentive because this is only going to be available within a set period. So therefore, if you use it, you'll get it immediately. And I guess everyone likes to know
a time activated discount code.
I'm trying to think if they do time ones, actually. I guess it's just the direct call to action by using an affiliate link. And I suppose this back on that is the logging of how many sales was made directly from that. That's usually the 2 things. And
we do that with our affiliate deals. So this would be something a lot newer, but I understand, we could also look at maybe having a 10 or 15% coupon, just having it in there in case, for direct sales. And it just basically just take it off. It's not going to be accredited to your account or anything like that, because you won't really have an affiliate account with us.
No.
Okay, perfect.
I think it's just that thing of like, this is the base price, but for you, because you've seen this ad, you're getting 5% off, and that's the newsletter. That's just a little bit of a push to send them in that direction. Once again, I don't know if this works. Once again, I don't know if this works. This is just something I've repeatedly done to ad campaigns. It's just something I've done.
100%. How do you?
The most effective way for me to get eyes on the video would be a 60 to 90 second insert, like I normally do. I would usually play the game that gets me the most views, and then that insert would follow on within that time period in the first 2 or 3 minutes of the video. And that way the most eyes would see it. If I were to make a dedicated video, it'd get 10K views, and it'd be a complete waste of mine and your time.
Okay. So you slip in the 60 to 90 second sponsored spot inside your existing gaming, like inside a new gaming video? Is that just does that go in one video, or does that go in like a series?
I've never done multiple videos, but however, I have known it is common that can happen. You can sometimes pay. I suppose what they would see it as is this is your rate per video. Okay, we'll pay for 3, and then we work out something a little bit cheaper for over the long, something like that. You know what I mean? Something like that. Because there was a company that used to do like sell gaming rigs. This wasn't me, but this was on the YouTube I used to speak frequently. And I think for 6 months he had this little 10 cent ad segment, like we'd show a logo at the very start of the video. And I think he was paid a set amount over the full duration just to consciously promote that logo. So that's just an example of that. Once again, I've never done one of those, but I've heard that they exist.
All right, perfect. Well, Quincy, do you have any questions for Dave?
Oh no, we can get back to him on a private call.
Yeah, we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you on a private call, and this is very helpful. And I think I've got all the answers I need. Do you have any more questions, Dave? I mean, you're happy to stay on or jump off, whatever you'd like to do.
No, I've got places to be and things to do, but no, it's a pleasure speaking to you. And keep up the good work.
The only thing I would ask, Dave, is that before we jump, if we do decide to pull the trigger, is that we get together and I'd have a quick call to show you some quick keys within that software so that you at least know these exist. So if you're like, wow, that's really cool, that needs to make it in my 90-second spot, because I didn't know that. That's something that could be included.
No, that's still cool. I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm promoting the product, I'm not just promoting one feature. I'm promoting the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't know, since you don't edit the actual timeline itself, right? You're not going to have people do that a lot faster than what you can in NLE, even with our quick keys and stuff, how it's all set up. So
I can kind of see with the development time, but how you're trying to make it more of like you do everything within the app and there's no longer a need to use third-party software. I kind of see where you're going with that.
Yeah, no, like just to design, like to cut timeline, right? To just prep your timeline, all your A-roll stuff. So awesome, sir. Well, it's good meeting you. And good seeing you again, I guess I should say.
Nice to meet you, Dave.
Nice to meet you guys. Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks, Dave. Tom, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
This is going to be a little bit probably boring for you, but I went through the video last time, which is cool because I was like, wow, I'm really like articulate. I'm really to the point. And then I said, first time we've ever done like 1.25 times speed. I was like, wow, I'm talking really like fast.
You like it?
It was good. Yeah. I mean, it keeps you engaged. It's nothing like, it's not difficult to follow, but it keeps you engaged. I do the same when I do my short videos. I always put it at whatever reason, 1.11 feels like a speed that people aren't like, what is this guy talking about? But they're
engaged. Yeah.
So my question, Quincy, you were so helpful last time, but I don't know why I wasn't able to replicate what you did, even though I kept following the steps. So I must have missed something in the process. So the goal, which I think is gonna be really easy for you to explain, so I obviously have TimeBolt down here, I have Camtasia, and then I have my...
Okay, that's the first one, right? So you have two different files which are separately edited, which have to be separately edited.
Yeah, if we do an example of just one of them, I'll be able to do that.
Let's start with the first one then, okay. So the first thing that you need to do is you have to open Camtasia, and then import the file over here.
All right, so this is the unedited original... Nothing's been done yet. Right?
Yeah, unedited one. And then you basically set it on track 1 or track 2.
Okay.
Just drag it and drop it on track 1 or track 2. Anyone is fine.
And make sure there's no space, right?
Yeah, correct. And then you save this project. You save it as you can call it whatever, and just save it in some location. It doesn't matter where you save it.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if it's by
He's like, I'm gonna save it where I need to save it because
Right. I got it.
Okay, so now you open TimeBolt and you process the same file.
Okay, so we got TimeBolt.
Yeah, so you pick up the same file. One thing that you can do is you can go into the Camtasia save folder, and the file is also copied over there. So the Camtasia file, so the Camtasia file, it's copied in there. TimeBolt support. You can double click on TimeBolt support. That one.
I'm clicking the time. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can double click on that, and the file's copied in there, so you can just use it from there.
Yes. Okay.
So what Camtasia does is when it creates a save file, right? It takes the video, makes a copy of it, and puts it inside that same save file. Okay. So once you're done with this, you can go to the bottom, and you can click on that TSC proj thing over there. Yeah, and then you just select the same file. TimeBolt support. Okay. Yeah. Now if you click on it.
No. Go back to TimeBolt.
In TimeBolt.
Oh yeah.
Okay. This one.
Okay, so it's here, and I open it there, even though it was I never closed it technically, right?
Yeah, it's the same one. Yeah, now if you click on the Camtasia in the taskbar.
That's what I was having trouble with. Nothing came up at the bottom.
Can you change? This is 2021. You're using the 2021 version. I don't think it's cross-compatible. So TimeBolt is updated for the 2022 version, and I don't think it's backwards compatible with the 2021 version, because when the Camtasia update came out in 2022, the new TimeBolt integration is not backwards compatible. We tried to make it compatible with the latest version. So I mean, Camtasia doesn't care about your previous version. So what we try to do at TimeBolt is we try to update to the latest version. Now, if Camtasia did something where it's not backwards compatible, I mean, it's like every safe project would react the same way, right? It's not just the safe projects you have with TimeBolt. Any safe project would react the same way. Drag it, yeah.
So now it's test 2, okay. And then that's where this video is. So now if I go down, test 2, grab it from here, comes there. Oh, so the upgrade's free anyways, right?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't use Camtasia. It's the only thing I have. But yeah, we had a lot of customers complain about the same thing, that when they switched over from 21 to 22, their old files stopped working. Video 1, save, open video.
The clean desktop you got there, for instance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's chilling. Nice.
Yeah, see, it's like we didn't get this bar on your computer. Because the previous time we spoke, you wouldn't have had the new TimeBolt download, I think. So see, here it works.
And it automatically.
Yeah. So what TimeBolt does is it automatically updates to the latest version, right? So it runs in the background. You see these numbers over here, right? These numbers were the values that were changed. So they are using a different mechanism to like calculate the media start and media duration numbers. So in the 2021 version, this was like pure seconds, like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds. But they added, I don't know, they added a lot of complexity to the number calculations in the 2022 version, which then we had to upgrade to. That's why they're not backwards compatible, because the previous version of Camtasia used the regular seconds, minutes kind of interface. But the 2022 version had a complete different way of like list directly inside the UI. So if you have any feature, right, there's a question mark next to the feature. You just click on it and then a video pops up and you can just watch the video and it will tell you how to use that feature itself. So if you want to know what left padding is, you can click on this button and it has like a 30-second video of what padding is and how to basically interact with it.
And just so you know that if you're looking for specific tips, if you scroll up, show him the timeline one, just so he knows.
Yeah, this one over here.
This one up there, that one really, this is the longest one. It's 1 minute and 17 seconds. Most of them are like 20, 25 seconds. This will take you through and show you the 4 quick keys, SLOPs, that are critical to quickly editing your timeline in TimeBolt.
Batch processing. So a lot of teachers record a lot of Zoom video, right, during their day, and they have to send that to the school, or they have to upload it on a YouTube channel. So they told us that, TimeBolt just removes the silences. That's all we need. So I want a feature where we can batch process these videos really, really quickly. So under the utilities section, there's something called batch processing. You click on it, you will open up some sort of a UI which says select multiple files to batch process. You click on whichever files you want. You can click on, let's say I select this one file, and then I select 2 and this 3. So you can just open it, and what it does is it just like goes through each file, processes it, and adds it to the queue.
That's really nifty.
Yeah.
I think what I was looking for at the point that I was using, because I was cutting a reality show, right?
Okay.
So there's a lot of dialogue interruptions, and there was a multicam. And so I was hoping that TimeBolt would have been able to just kind of trim the sequence, because there's clips also without audio, but that it would have been able to trim the sequence based on the clip that has audio, and so remove all the spaces. But I think I think what I ended up in was marking the spots.
That's the next one. So that's the next feature.
Can you explain that? I don't understand. I need context.
So
I have the wrong version.
A multicam sequence in Premiere would have, sometimes it would have clips without audio, and so I was hoping that when I was using TimeBolt at that time, that it would have been able to just trim together only the parts of the clips with dialogue, but it would have done that for the whole sequence.
Do you use our plugin for that?
Clips of dialogue? What does that mean exactly?
Let's say in a multicam sequence, I have like 2 clips with dialogue, so I could sync the audio, and I have a clip without dialogue.
Correct.
Because it wasn't recorded, and I have to manually sync that. So I think at that time, it's about a couple months back, I was trying to use TimeBolt to trim together the sequence, to just remove all to auto cut the sequence down basically.
Correct. Yeah, so I mean, the fastest way to do it, as far as like I've seen, is by using the Premiere Pro plugin. I mean, I don't know if you use Premiere Pro. I'm just saying like that's the fastest way, because that's the only platform that we have a dedicated plugin for So in that, what you do is you have those two audio files, which are obviously like with video attached or without video attached. So with video attached, you have those files, and then what you do is you take this. Let's say you have this JSON file, right? When you click on Save Timeline Cuts, you have this JSON file which pops up. So this JSON file basically contains a lot of the all of the cuts which have been made inside the timeline. And then what you do is you individually select each of those clips inside the Premiere Pro timeline, and you apply that JSON to that timeline. And then the plugin cuts them up and syncs them up automatically. But yeah, that's essentially how it would work. Like you have those.
That was exactly what I was trying to do, but I wasn't able to figure it out.
Okay. I mean,
it does remind me, Quincy. There was a gentleman that was on about 2 months ago that had he said that there's a difference between multi-cam and multi-track.
Philosophically, of course, there are differences between like the intention behind each of these videos, but
when you're like going through,
the idea is that if you have the same audio track for both the videos, you should be able to use TimeBolt through the Premiere Pro plugin. Like that's the idea. I mean, of course, there are different terminologies.
I think for me, I wanted to also use it essentially trim the entire timeline. So even if I had like 5 tracks,
do you have like what do you use? Do you use Premiere Pro or do you use something else?
I use Premiere Pro.
So we could do like you could if I don't know if you're on your computer right now, like if you could share a screen and you could walk us through a workflow.
Looks like that worked for Tom.
Yeah, he said he did this.
All right, so let's say I don't have it on this one, but let's say this clip as well. Let me just pull this over. This is so this clip is a drone shot, right? Yeah. So the drone shot comes in without audio, so I have to get kind of painstakingly find where it actually syncs. However, what I wanted for TimeBolt to have done was say this track is a correct audio. Let me expand this. I wanted to have been able to process this clip at least, and then have it just kind of trim together the entire timeline. So it would have gotten rid of these based on just the clip down there, and so it would have just kind of been left with.
I don't know if TimeBolt will be able to help with that.
Yeah, that's.
So one thing that is possible, I mean, I don't know if this would work, but so when you apply JSON, right? When you apply JSON to a file, let's say, yeah. So this is this is Tom's video, right? So in Tom's video, this is his detected audio waveform. Now, let's say I have a different track, a video track. I want to apply that video track on that video track save timeline on this one. So I can just come over here. I can click on Apply Timeline Cuts. I can select the shift. So if I want to shift it, I can do that. But right now, there's no shifting. I'll select the file. So let's say I have some random some JSON I have from some other file, which is like your second file which you had. Yeah. See, so here I have these first 3 cuts, which were detected from another file, but I applied it on a different video file. Yeah. You see, but like you can do that.
Wouldn't they have to have been started at the same time?
Yeah, exactly. So they should be starting at the same time. That's the only difference. Or if they don't start at the same time, you can shift these values.
That's the shift.
Yeah, so that's why there is a shift value to keep them in sync. Okay. But yeah, I mean, that's just
it's a bit more tedious than just...
It's very tedious. Yeah, that's why I said I don't know if TimeBolt will be able to help you with that problem. It's a very complex, it's a very specific, complex issue. Yeah, I don't think TimeBolt will be able to help you with that.
That's a pity, because this would have saved me hours.
Yeah. I mean, see, everybody has like very specific issues, which are like, yeah, I mean, it's just sometimes we just can't build solutions for those.
I think in time, because if TimeBolt is able to select a specific track, like using track 2 in terms of audio track 2 as the cut, then just trim the entire timeline eventually based on that.
No, I know, but that's the thing, right? It needs to like have a single sync point. It needs to be like, it needs to either start at the same place, or you need to know what the difference is between them, like in seconds.
That's what I mean. So if it's using a single track as the main source, let's say track 1 is really where the real audio needs to be.
Correct, yeah.
You could use track 1 as a basis and just trim the entire timeline based on track 1 after it.
So yeah, you could still do that. You could do that right now. Actually, you could use the plugin to do that right now. But you need to create a new. So what you need to do is you can't do it in the same your current timeline that you're working in. You need to copy that track, copy that sequence into a new sequence. Like you create a new sequence and copy that track into that sequence, then line them up, and then process the audio, and then apply the JSON from after that, and then copy it back to the original sequence that you had. So you need to create a new sequence and then run the processing on the new sequence, because if you do it in your current sequence, it's going to overwrite the first few tracks.
Yeah.
And that will mess up your entire sequence. So you'll have to create a new sequence first.
I think I now understand what was being said about a multi-cam sequence versus a multi-track sequence. Because here's an example. This right here, the script, is a multi-cam sequence. It's basically a nested sequence. And so let me turn on multi-cam. Multi-camera enable. All right. Cool.
Okay. There are multiple cameras.
Yeah. And let me just stretch it over. So here we go. So now I can switch between cam 1, 2, or 3, right? So I think that person was mentioning that if you could just have this multicam sequence on a timeline, and TimeBolt just trimmed it down for him.
I know. This is just like for TimeBolt to do this, it's very complex. Like I don't think the UI that we would create would be as good as the UI that Premiere Pro has. Like because this UI is very like optimized for this this sort of.
This sequence has the right audio already.
Yeah, I mean, when we say multi-camera in TimeBolt, like we just mean that two video files have the same audio, and then you can sync them up and process them. This is just a different level of complexity.
Sure, Mood. Thank you for joining us and showing us your workflows here. It looks like were we able to answer your questions? Do you have anything else additional?
John.
Now we're up to John.
Yeah. Oops.
Not gonna say your last name.
Yeah. I wish this wasn't going to be on YouTube. I would love to have my camera on. I just feel like that's just me being weird, I guess. But
you're kind of. It's a video show, dude. It's kind of weird.
They're a video company.
We're about YouTube, and you don't want to be on YouTube, so
yeah. I couldn't remember the answer. I don't know if we have enough time for me to actually show you, but the thing is that I tried again with the thing where I take a WAV file and feed it into TimeBolt. And I've got that same WAV file in my Camtasia where I've got all the different video and stuff. And I get the cuts all done in TimeBolt on the WAV file the way I want it. And then I want to export that into the TSC project file that has 4 tracks, video and different stuff, and the actual WAV file again in there. And I just wanted to cut it up. It seems to give me errors.
The first feature was batch processing. The second feature that we have integrated is markers. So if you're on a clip and you think that this is a very important clip and you want to keep it in reference for the future, you can press M, and it basically creates a horizontal yellow line which marks the clip. So you can go over here, press M. So every time you go forward and you want to come back, you can like go back to the marked clip. So I know that I can mark this clip and be like, okay, this is an important clip. I want to keep it. Okay.
Nice.
Now we thought that, okay, marking is great. Marking is, very useful. You can mark a clip. Awesome. What else can you do with a marked clip? A lot of times you want to like export small sections of a video, right? You want to export small sections of a video, like maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds. And it becomes very difficult to like turn off every clip. Or another method is to just press O and then go through the timeline. But that does seem very daunting. But what you can do is that you can click on this button which says keep only marked cuts, which means that if you click on it, it keeps only the marked cuts and turns off everything else. So everything else is red, but only the marked cuts are in green. So let's say you want to release a YouTube short and you want only like a specific amount of cuts, you can mark them with the M command and then click on this button which says keep only marked cuts, and you're done. And only the marked cuts are in green, and then you can start rendering them, export to XML.
I can do XML. You can do XML and that stuff.
Yeah, of course. It's a timeline. It's
perfect.
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great, coincidence.
Cool. So that's the other feature. So these are the 2 features we'll be launching in the next week, hopefully. Yeah.
And coincidence is the idea, the vision behind that with markers. Is there going to be in the where you got the 3 dots down below in the rendering options, those 3 dots? Is there going to be a way to just like put on a notepad, right? It just starts at 0.00 and show where the first markers are. So then,
we will be adding that also.
That'll be. I just didn't know, like even for this video, it'll save me.
Yeah, we could do. Yeah. So that So one more thing that we talked about, Doug and me, is that when you mark a clip, right? Suppose you're marking it in TimeBolt, right? And then you want to work on that project in Premiere Pro. What usually happens is that the markers are important. You don't want to always go back to TimeBolt and try to find out where the marked clip is. So we're going to create like a export option over here where you can export a text file which has all the markers listed and the timestamps of each marker. So you'll have marker 1 at let's say 10 seconds, marker 2 at 1 minute 30 seconds. So there'll be a text file which you can export, and it'll have a list of all the markers, so you don't have to go back and scroll through the timeline constantly about where the markers are.
Yeah, and the reason you can't really do it. So the markers for me, besides the shorts, which we'll get to, but the markers for me when I'm editing these long Zoom calls, right? What happens is you throw it into TimeBolt, and a 60-minute call is going to break down in like 30, 40 minutes of usable content once you remove the dead air and just kind of banter and stuff. As you're going through, minute 2 may actually be like second 30, on when it actually renders out as just that video. So now what I'm doing is after I go through the timeline and figure out what I want to keep, I then have to render the video, upload it to YouTube, and now I have to go watch the actual rendered video again, right? Now looking for the places where there's changes in conversation. With the markers now, as I'm going through, I'll just hit mark and it'll have nothing to do with, hey, I went to render this thing out. It is more about where do conversations start, right? And so now I'll have a text file and I'll be able to go to those specific points and say what happened at that specific point, write it in and throw it in the description in YouTube. And again, it saves 30 minutes of hardcore, dedicated listening work that you've already done.
Yeah, one more reason for that text file is that when you export to XML or you render it out, like this is the raw file, right? But when you export it out, only the green parts are going to be kept. So if you have a marker which you kept at like 15 seconds, when you export the XML, it's not going to be 15 seconds. It's going to be like 9. So it's not like you're going to go 15 and then, in my XML file, it's going to be 15. It's going to be somewhere around here because
14. It says 14 seconds. Output duration right below.
But it's not going to be either of those. It's going to be squished together. It's going to be like, okay, this is the length of this plus the length of this. And then that's at the end of this clip is going to be there because the green parts are going to be squished together when you export to XML or export as a file.
What happens when you hit keep only mark cuts? You click that. How do you get back to the original timeline?
You press Control Z, undo it. Like, let's say I've selected this. I've selected this. And I only want to keep the marked cuts. I could keep all the marked cuts. And then if I want to go back, I just press Control Z and it goes back.
And you never see you end up doing so much mark cut because you can't undo a mark, right? Is that what you're saying?
You can undo a mark.
Oh, I wasn't able to do that before the Command Z.
No, I'm pressing M right now. So I'm pressing M to mark it. I'm pressing M to unmark it. So a marked clip, when you press M again, will be unmarked.
No, but I'm talking about like the layers, right? So like if you go in and like unmark a bunch of cuts, right? Let's say you do, or you mark some additional cuts. I'm sorry, you unmark cuts. It's not like once I hit Command Z, I'm not going to be redoing all those marked cuts and then jumping back into the timeline because the Command Z only to undo only deals with the whole timeline.
No, Command Z just one step behind. Like, let's say I turn this off, right? And it's not about turning this on. It's about going one step back. So when you do an action, I want to go back to the previous action. That's what Command Z does. It goes back to the previs action.
Yeah, people are going to flip out. People might flip out like if you get
undo. It's just undo. It's about, it doesn't matter what you do. I mark a clip, I undo a clip, and I keep only mark cuts. But when I do Control Z, it goes back to the previous state.
I think that my personal input on that is that having to do Control Z could get really confusing. It'd be much better if there was say if there's any option on the screen where I can do something, there needs to be a clear option where I can undo that thing, not just press Control Z, because then I'm confused. Like, did I do it right? Is it all? I mean, that's just me. But
can you still unmark that second one right there? You can hit M. Okay, good. That shit works. And so now let's imagine you do that 10 times. Okay, throughout this time, and you got this. Now you're previewing, and see that's what's cool, John, is now you can preview, and it's just going to show you the marked cuts, right? So you're able to see the preview. But now I'm like, okay, I got done with my short. I saved my XML. I know I got my TXT file. Now I want to go back to my original like 6 minute or 60 minute, 40 minute timeline, right? Away from this. Now I've got to remember that how many actions did I do inside the flip?
No, that is impossible. You can't do that. Unless you save the timeline, you can't do that. Because if you go over 10 actions, you can't undo 10 actions, more than 10
Exactly.
Actions.
So if you do more than 10 actions, you can't undo your way back.
I mean, obviously, if you're turning off all the cuts, you'll have to save a file before, right? You need to do a controls, like you need to like save your project before you go on and mess with the timeline, right? I mean, obviously. If you don't save the timeline and you just destroy your project, like TimeBolt doesn't remember everything like that.
So you're saying, I mean, that's good. There you go. You see, there's where you're the guy who knows what's up. And so maybe in that where it says keep only marked cuts, if in that question mark, if it says maybe save a JSON of what you've got now before you start changing.
Yeah. No, I'll let's go with a warning button like that. That way they know to save the JSON. And I agree that most people are going to be able to back out of it by hitting Command Z, right? And hopefully they save the timeline and then do a Command Z just to see how it all works before they start messing more. But I think the markers thing is amazing, man. I mean, this is going to be one of those this is going to be one of those things where you're able to get like customers and these long Zoom calls. You're able to send the CEO, hey, look, our customer said this here, this here, this here, and be able to take out 5 minutes of the most important content, sprinkled in 40 minutes very, very quickly. I think it turns video into a super useful tool as well.
A Camtasia thing. Okay, so this is the file. This is the Camp project. Okay, this is my WAV file that I've done an audition mix down on. This is the original audio. And I just leave it in there because I just left it in there. This is the system audio, and then this is the actual video recorded. And so I've got this file, and what I'm trying to do is I take this WAV file and feed it into TimeBolt and get all the cuts, and then I export those cuts back into this TSC project file.
Yeah, that's not how this can't do it. It only works on one file at a time.
Well, these are multiple tracks. This is the question I asked last time, and I thought that I had said, well, every time I try to use more than one track, it seems like it messes up. And I thought that anyway, it doesn't matter what I thought. Tell me how to do this.
Yeah, so what you'll need to do is you'll need to do each track individually and then copy it back. Now, I don't know if Camtasia has that.
Why do you need to keep the non-master audio, the second track in there at all?
I don't, but it shouldn't matter. If it'll do 4 tracks, if it'll do 3 tracks, it should do 4. But I don't know
if we do multi-track audio inside Camtasia, do we?
Yeah. I mean, it works with one video at a time. I don't think it works with. But I mean, we could alter the current plugin to. So it's not one file with 4 audio tracks, right? It's 4 separate files which are audios.
And then you have to render this out.
4 separate files, right?
This is they're 4 separate. Well, let's see.
Files.
No, I separated the system audio out of the system audio is separate. I separated out the audio from the screen recording, and I did 4 separate screen recordings and just have them all back to back here.
And so why not just do this? Why not just remove the second track audio and then render out a single MP4 with your system audio plus your main audio and your video, and then run that, then start the process with TimeBolt?
Realize now is that we could alter the Camtasia algorithm to Camtasia extension to support this, because what happens essentially is that it takes the file on track 1 and processes it, but now it could also, if the cuts are the same, it could also, and the starting point is the same, it could also take the file on track 2 and track 3, track 4. It can also work on those. The only thing that I find that would not support it is that you have 2 separate files on the same track, or there are cuts in the same, like on track 1 at 8 minutes. Is it 8 minutes? At 8 minutes, 30 seconds, you have a cut. So if the Camtasia thing is going to work, it has to be one singular file without any cuts.
Yeah, you can't because these are separate screen recordings. It won't
exactly. That can't be supported even if I make the exception for multiple tracks. Yeah. So what Doug said is that's the best solution for now, which is you set them up, you stack them up, you export like single MP4 file and run that through TimeBolt. Which, I mean, if you have I don't know if you're gonna switch between these cuts at some point.
That's the process for anything that's captured in Camtasia today. The process is that you're that special capture. You've got to export that as an MP4 and start that as the new project, right? You can't just run whatever's captured native.
The only reason for all this is because Camtasia makes it very difficult to make any plugin, and even now we haven't made a plugin for Camtasia. All we are trying to do is alter the save file, because that's the only thing we can do to support Camtasia, because the whole system is very closed.
It also might help. It also might help you if you just start. I don't know what you do with the capture in Camtasia. I know they got some cool stuff where you can do the mouse cursor and stuff. But looking at OBS, you can do multi-track audio captured to one single video file in OBS. And once you hit done your recording, you wouldn't have to then render and start a new project in Camtasia. You'd already have your MP4 with your.
Well, the way this, I'm hesitant to say this because I know you know this. I'm not trying to tell you that you don't know this, but I'm just trying to clarify where we're at in our communication. The system audio, when I first recorded, when you do a screen recording, it has the screen and system audio track. So it creates 2 tracks. And then I separated out the audio track, which is mixed in originally with the video, the screen recording track. So I separated this out and then exported this, did stuff with it in Adobe Audition, then brought it back in here. Now I could cut this, and I don't think it would let me I think I tried to combine it back in with the screen recording and it won't let me do that. But at the very least, if I render this out with, I don't want to have a single MP4 file with system audio mixed in with the audio that I recorded. I would want to keep it separate, just for best practice, really. But at the very least, I would have a Camtasia, a TSC project file that would have 2 tracks in it. And are you saying I can't export to that either?
So right now we don't support it, but yeah, I think that should be something that we can build. So I could build a solution where right now it just supports 1 track, but yeah, we could build a solution where the cuts are applied to 2 tracks instead of 1. So yeah, that's if you have a single timeline without any cuts, like if you have track 2 unedited, like till the end, like one big block without any cuts in the middle, yeah, that should be able to, like, we could build that.
You're going to remove the second track audio. You have to, it doesn't matter if you got 15 tracks there, right? You still got to create a single MP4 file. So you have to hit render, hit export, delete any, like, I don't know why you would have track 2 in there at all, because it's not your, so you just delete track 2, combine it all, flatten it all into one single MP4, and then run that and start that as a new project in Camtasia and run it in TimeBolt. It's the process that we've told anybody they have to use if they're capturing in Camtasia. If not, you capture in OBS, you already start off with a single MP4 file. If you want multi-track audio, you can do it that way. And you wouldn't have to...
No, but the thing is that I feel like the audio is kept separate to preserve quality. Like when you compress it into one MP4, what happens is the quality of the audio goes out.
Well, it's a strong point that he makes, and he's right. I should be okay with making this into an MP4 file and then cutting it, because that's the way it's going to end up anyway. Being just as a best practice, that's not the way I do it. I like to keep things separate until the last minute, but in this case that should work, and it really won't compromise anything. I mean, it's not like I'm looking for cinema quality here, so it might be nice to have multiple tracks.
I get that, but
otherwise that's a very reasonable workaround. Not a workaround, it's just, it makes perfect sense that I would do it that way. So yeah.
All right,
but
perfect.
I mean, I feel like I feel like we should support 2 to 3 tracks. So I mean, why not? Like in my head, like I know how to build it, so I'll just build it.
Yeah. Okay. Now the thing I'm interested in is, why is it that right here, because there's a split, why is it that can't be handled?
Yeah. So what happens is that when you put it on the track, right, TimeBolt, when it makes those alterations, it doesn't look at your cuts in the timeline. It looks at the cuts that TimeBolt has made in the main software, in the TimeBolt software. So it's going to apply those cuts on your file and not on the track.
So if this is the track that I feed into TimeBolt and it's coming back to this file with these cuts, which is from a file that covers all 4 of these different segments,
correct?
Is that what you said still applies?
Yeah. It will delete the track and then take the file and override the track.
Because it doesn't start at absolute zero. Like these start at 0, right? In TimeBolt it starts at 0, and here your cuts are going to start at 8.
The track is just a placeholder. The TimeBolt doesn't care about the track. TimeBolt cares about the file that's on the track. So if you have the file location, the file path, TimeBolt looks at the track, knows that there's a file there. It takes the file path, goes onto your disk, takes that disk file, puts it on the track, and then starts cutting it up. So this cut will be gone. It will be overwritten. Yeah. So, but the thing is that the 1 and 2 track, right now it supports 1 track, but yeah, I feel like we could build the second track so you can use for now, at least you could do the MP4 thing, but we'll contact you once we have that second track feature built out.
Oh,
somehow.
Super. Yeah.
Somehow contact you.
We don't know your last name.
You have an email. I'm getting emails from Doug. I mean, he's. I don't know if it's really Doug, then I'm getting emails from Doug.
Awesome. Well, Doug, great. And so Quinston, kind of like our. Because my time's more important than John's. Just kidding me about the XML. We're like fighting. I'm like, no, you can't do the multi-track audio. You need the XML. XML for markers. That's funny.
Well, Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate
No, it's
your help.
great. It's great. No, thank you so much for these questions. And this is how we get stuff done, John. And I really appreciate your support and coming on and letting us know your workflows. I know they've got a lot going on. And so I believe that's it for. Do you have anything else, Quinston? Fantastic.
No, I think
today.
the two features we had to discuss, we discussed them. Yeah.
Great. And then are we going live with 4.6.0?
But we'll need to test it first. After we finish testing, we'll push it out. Probably by next week.
Probably by next week.
Yeah, next week, Thursday or Friday.
Is that includes the FFM? Like I'm talking about everybody else.
Yeah, batch processing and the markers.
Okay, great. That's what we'll do. Well, that does it for TimeBolt Office Hours on August 25th, 2022 with Doug and Quinston and John X as our guests. If you like this content, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and of course get notifications when we go live. But we are out of time. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.